the gift of the written word. Okay? Have you ever known someone who was good at reading and writing but not so good at speaking? Some of you have known someone like that? Okay. Two different intelligences. Okay? But in multiple intelligences, it's called a language intelligence. And there are actually multiple kinds of language intelligence. Okay, so these are the gifts that I saw in this group of kids that conflict with school. And so often, what we think about these kids is that there's something wrong with them. That's what was shocking to me. The shocking thing was that there is nothing wrong with these kids. They're perfectly capable of learning. But they may not learn the way we ask them to do it in school. They may actually have gifts, things that are very right about them, that are causing them to look like bad students. Now, let me just ask all of you, have you ever known a kid who was really very smart, but it didn't show in the classroom? Okay, few of you have known someone like that. So, you know, that's maybe a kid who gets frustrated trying to fit into a certain mold. That's what happens with some of the kids. So think for a minute about what it would be like if you were a little boy who loved to think in pictures, but being told you were weird because you didn't speak until the age of 3. That's what happened with one young boy. And when the teachers would ask him year after year to memorize things and then write the answers down on the test, this boy was at a loss. He couldn't memorize, and the words on the page didn't match the pictures that were running through his head. So year after year, he got terrible grades on his exams. Now, what do you think a kid like that would start to say to himself? I'm stupid. Anything else? Is that the only thing he'll say? I'm bad. I'm a bad kid. Something wrong with me? I can't learn. Yeah. Excuse me?
Or is it
I'm a loser. I'm a loser. Sure. I'll never be successful at anything. Yeah. So when kids are asked to fit into something that doesn't suit them, these are some of the things that could come out. And if you think back to the kid you were thinking of when I asked you if you knew someone like this, how do you think these messages would affect that child? All negative. Let me show you how it affects some kids. The great news is that children adapt to maintain integrity. They adapt. That's the great news. So when they're told to do things that conflict with their natural gifts and interests, or when they feel that they've failed to meet expectations, and they sense that they may fail to meet them again, what they do is they protect their inner core. Guess how they do that? They act out. Okay? It's not pretty, but it's very healthy for them. My advisor is Dr. George Valiant at Harvard, and he's actually world-renowned for having explained that there are different maturity levels of coping mechanisms. Okay? So acting out is a very immature coping mechanism, but it is healthy for the child because it protects their inner core, which is being threatened. Okay? It doesn't look pretty, but it's good for them. So, very quickly, anybody want to share some insight that they got out of this? Something that was interesting, surprising, nice to hear? Yes?
This is actually interesting for me because my sister was like this, and we're in our 50s now. And I always thought she was an anomaly. Like, it was just interesting that her self took off after school. But now I'm seeing that it's actually a pattern, and it's continued with other people in our family. And what's nice about this is it's giving validation to something that I thought was just unusual.
Great, terrific. Thank you for sharing that. And I realized that I didn't pass the mic. Does somebody have the microphone we could pass? But just to repeat that, if people didn't hear it, so your sister was like the models that I'm showing here.
And she's in her 50s.
And now she's in her 50s and doing very well. And you're now realizing that she's not an anomaly, that there's a pattern here that happens across many people. Yes?
I was like that. I'm just talking loud so people can hear. I was like that. I was not a good student, and yet I was always class president.
Wow.
And I was really, really enthusiastic with everything that I ran, but I just hated school. So
That's terrific.
You know, I hated school.
Okay, we got to turn that on next time. Thank
So
you.
much.
Thank you for saying that.
It was really, really difficult for me.
Thank you for saying
And
that.
I had a sister who went to Harvard, and I thought, she's the smart one. And I got out of high school and bumbled around with community schools and UMass Boston. And I got a job, and it was a smaller company, and I did awesome. And when I was 23 and she was 30, I was making way more money than her.
Wow.
But she's the smart one. But she's older. But anyways, I always felt really like, oh, I'm not smart. I'm just lucky, or I'm a hard worker. But I definitely can relate to that.
Great.
So,
Thank you for sharing that.
I feel like a loser, though.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we have time for one more quick one. Yes, please.
Just that Pat and I discussed that both our children's success is happening when they're standing up, whether they be standing up to build a train set, or standing up to be a shortstop, or standing up to get their friends to help them with costumes, and it's just interesting that came out of some of the
That's fascinating. And that's the first time that's come out in one of these talks, and all the times I've done it all over the world. So that's very interesting. Terrific insight. Stand up. That's great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to. What I found, as you can tell from the comments you got back and from the conversations you have, what I found is that the bottom 80 have exactly the strengths and gifts that they need for world leadership, for leadership of any kind, for strong organizations, and for where our economy is going, for future growth. And let me just take you through a little bit of why I say that. So, anybody know who Peter Drucker is? Who is he?
Truman.
Management guru, okay? Foremost expert on leadership, okay, the past century. And Peter Drucker said there were two critical attributes of leaders. What do you think those might be? Integrity. What else?
The ability to inspire.
Ability to inspire. Vision. Okay. Excuse me?
Seeing strengths in others.
Seeing strengths in others, yes. Okay, so integrity, honesty, he said. And he said people who know themselves, they're not afraid of strengths in others. They know their own weaknesses, not worried about them, not afraid of strengths in others. They know themselves, and they are honest. And he said Harry Truman was one of the best leaders of the past century because he was trustworthy. People knew if he said yes, it was yes. If he said no, it was no. Now, I hope that honesty and knowing yourself sound familiar to you. I hope you remember honesty on the list of strengths that I showed you in the bottom 80. And knowing yourself was the gift that I said was self-clarity. Self-clarity, knowing yourself, not being afraid of strengths in others. So those two attributes that I found in the bottom 80 are crucial to leadership, according to the expert in leadership. And they're more important than grades in school. Okay, second myth, myth of the best student. So the way this myth goes is be the best student so you get into the best colleges, so you get the best jobs so you can make a lot of money, and then you're going to be happy for life. Okay, we don't go around saying this exactly. Yeah, that's right. The arrows should all be going up. That's right. Yeah, well, they're going down for a reason because this myth is wrong. All right, you've already seen some examples. And let me just ask you, what do you think is the highest paid profession? CEOs? Law. Law is the highest paid profession. This is correct. All right, sorry for any of you that are lawyers in the room, but guess which is the most depressed profession? It's true. It is true. Okay. So